want y'all to please help welcome to Dillard University, Jurnee Smollett.
Hey, y'all.
Y'all funny. Hey.
Thank you so much for that introduction.
No, thank you for being here. We're
Thank you.
excited, as you can see. We're excited to have you here with us, and we'll have some conversation. And y'all, if y'all are good, we'll let some of y'all ask some questions too. All right. All right. So let's start off. So as I reference, you've been in the entertainment business really almost 30 years, if you think about it, starting with Full House at age 6. So for those who don't really know your story, how did you get into acting, and then what do you think is the key to longevity?
Okay, so I actually have been in front of the camera since I was 10 months old. And so I've literally done it my entire life. So that's 34 years, just, you know. I think of it as a marathon, not a sprint. And I've been so incredibly fortunate to essentially grow up on sets. But I wasn't a child star. I was a kid who had a hobby and a passion, and my mother allowed me to express that. But I got involved really young. I was born in New York, and my older siblings were modeling and doing commercials. And honestly, it was just like a photographer asked to throw me in a picture, and I started modeling diapers. You know, it was quite organic, but my mom was a big fan of cinema, of storytelling, of all of the arts. And so in our house, you know, for Mother's Day or for Christmas, instead of getting her a present, she wanted us to put on a concert. And so we were doing plays and concerts and singing for her. And so, you know, the arts, they were so integral to my upbringing. And but yeah, I got to give my mom credit, because she wasn't like a stage mom. You know, she had me study it, and she was very picky with the kind of projects she allowed me to do. And yeah, it was Eve's Bayou. That was, you know, that was the film, that was the project where once I did that, I knew, oh, I want to do this for the rest of my life. And yeah, just been blessed and fortunate to been doing it ever since.
So how did your family really structure itself so that you could have some balance? And first of all, we need to shout out your brother, because he's here. So Jake, if you stand up.
Jake.
Her brother Jake is here. So, but how did y'all go about? Because you have this very talented family, and how was the balance maintained? So, because you're, you know, in and out and doing lots of different movies and television. So how was that balance so you could have some sense of normalcy, if there is such a thing?
My mom's from New Orleans, y'all. She's from the 7th Ward. And listen, you were not going to have a big head living in my mother's house, not at Janet's house. And so it didn't matter if you went and just did a movie with Denzel Washington, go clean these dishes. You know, it's like she found a way to keep us grounded and found a way to keep us in touch with the things that mattered in life. And she had this philosophy that there's no greater person in the room than the server. Those who are willing to serve, those who are willing to give back to their community and serve their fellow human being, that's the greatest among us. And so growing up one of 6 kids, we all had to, you know, really take care of each other. And so there was never really I think that's how she kept us balanced. You know, I've never tried a narcotic. Literally never have tried one. I drink once in a while, you know, when it's like times, but barely that, you know. And people ask me all the time, how did you grow up in this industry and not get caught up? How do you be in the world but not of the world? And I have to give my mother credit because she had me volunteering as a young kid and working on organizations and causes like Artists for New South Africa from the time I was 12 up. I remember going in the voting booth with her when I was 5. And so she constantly integrated service and community service into the mission of life. And I think that helped me stay grounded, and it also made me choose projects differently because I know, when I step onto the screen, I'm a reflection and I'm representing so many people. And so it's why my resume is not 50 pages long, because I just wasn't willing to sell my soul. And there was no price tag for integrity in my mother's house. And so for all those reasons, I think I've had a very different path than a lot of my peers.
So you referenced Denzel Washington, and once again, for folks that y'all don't know the Dillard history, he was our commencement speaker here 2015. It's like one of the most, I think it's second most viewed commencement speech of all time. So if you haven't seen that, go see that too. But you mentioned that, and if you look at the list of people that you have had a chance to share stage with, from Samuel L. Jackson to Lynn Whitfield, Angela Bassett, the late Michael K. Williams. What are some lessons that you learned having a chance to share the screen with folks like that?
Oh, so many lessons. Working with Denzel Washington on The Great Debaters, he was also our director and lead actor, obviously. But it was like taking a master class. He had us for weeks prior to even shooting. We were doing Shakespeare monologues and, August Wilson monologues. And he put us in debate camp. And I learned just a deeper appreciation for the craft. He was the one who taught me to write a biography of your character for each project. I keep a journal as my character now because of D. But the most important lesson he taught me was to trust your instinct. I would ask him questions. Okay, well, what, should she do this or do? And he would just go, trust your instinct. How would you say it? And it's such a simple thing to say, but it's something that I repeat to myself even outside of decisions I'm making for a character, in life. I'm always now I say, okay, I try to get quiet and just hear what my instincts are. I believe that's the divine. I believe that's God talking to us, through us, right? And so if we could just trust our instincts a little more, we would really know what path we're supposed to walk through in life and make more correct choices. I have been so blessed to work with so many of the greats. I feel incredibly blessed because I never went to drama school. I learned by doing. That was another thing that Denzel says is you do by doing, and I learned from just watching and observing and taking something and putting it in my pocket. And, I'm incredibly feel so blessed to have worked with so many of them who are now my mentors.
Yeah, so you talked a little about the journaling and all that. So talk a little bit more about how you prepare for a role, and are there some roles that come more naturally than others, and particularly the difficult roles, and how do you really work around those? It's
so hard to explain the process. Do we have any folks here who are who have acting? Okay, experience. Okay, so yeah, when you look at the page, the text, it's an invitation to really open up your imagination. It's an invitation to bring something to life. And I always look at it as these characters live inside of me. These are truths. These are folks that I could be if I were in XYZ situation, right? And so I just do a lot of research. I try to research the world. I oftentimes get cast for some reason in like period pieces. I don't know why, but I tend to research the whole the whole world. I want to know everything about her, from the sheets that she sleeps on to the kind of cereal or breakfast she would eat. Even if it's not something that you see on camera, but I need to know it. Because she's got to be a full, living, breathing person in order for me to make the correct choices in those scenes, right? And so, yeah, it starts with research for me, regardless of time period or piece. I mean, playing Black Canary in Birds of Prey, the research for that was, while it's different than playing Rosalie in Underground, I love Rosalie. I love Underground. Come on, Rosalie. That was a good show, wasn't it? So regardless of the research, with Rosalie, I read, obviously, a lot of historical pieces, a lot of first-person account. They don't teach our history the way that it should be taught, so it was a lot of me going back and, Library of Congress and trying to hear that they actually have tapes and recordings of first-person accounts of what it was like to be enslaved from the survivors. It was something that happened in the 1930s. Folks went around interviewing the last living generation of the enslaved generation. And so I read books like The Bullwhip Days and Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl. And for me, I was more so interested in understanding it from their perspective, not someone writing about them, right? But with Black Canary, it's okay, I gotta go and read every single comic book that's ever been written about Black Canary and figure out, how do I make this my own? So I called Samuel Jackson, and I was like, so now,
I call Sam.
He's my godfather. He's my godfather, and he's been in my life ever since Eve's Bayou. And so I called him, and I was really, I have to say, I was initially a bit intimidated to take on Black Canary, because there was initially a lot of talk online in my Twitter feed, things I shouldn't have been reading. About them casting me because the character was written, almost 70 years ago, and she was written in the comics as a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman. And so some of the fanboys weren't exactly happy about me. They were like, some people were like, they're blackwashing this character. And so I was like, trying to make sure I had my blinders on and not paid any of that stuff any attention, but it's still, it hurts. And so I called him and was like, look, you've been in this comic book world for years, you've been killing it, this is new to me, is there anything else I need to do differently in how I approach it? And he said, baby, just go and on your territory. And that's what I did. I went and on my territory.
I'm sure he said something else too, but I'm just okay. So let's talk about Lovecraft Country. So when you first, like I said, it's a crazy show to me, but I couldn't turn away. It was like I'm ready for the next one, immediately. It was always like that. So when you first see this, what goes through your mind?
When I first see the show, or
the script, when you start reading and figuring out what this is going to be?
Oh, it blew me away. So you have to understand the mind state I was in when I read the script. Underground had just been canceled. And Misha was looking for a home for season 3 Underground, and it was not looking good. And I was being offered quite a bit of television shows that just didn't live up to the standards of what Underground was. And so I was just passing on everything. And I would even send it to Misha. Misha Green created Underground and Lovecraft Country. And I would send her some of these projects, and she'd be like, nope, it's trash. Nope, Jurnee, you can't do it. It's trash. And then she sent me this script, and she was like, this is what I'm working on for HBO. But she didn't offer it to me. It wasn't like she was sending it to me saying, hey, I want you to play Letty. No. She was just like, you're my friend, read this thing I'm doing, which was rude. And when I read it, the first scene in which Atticus is in the Korean War, and then he's slaying dragons, and Jackie Robinson's voiceover is, I was like, wait, what? You know, in that first scene, I just knew, oh, she about to F some up, you know. She about to, you know, sorry, close your ears. And it just was so incredibly disruptive. And for a genre that I'm a fan of, I love the horror genre. I love thriller, horror, sci-fi. But most times, you know, I've said this quite often, I've had to, in the past, just tell my agents, do not bring me a horror script. Because oftentimes we are the black chick that dies on page 36. And I refuse to continue to perpetuate that stereotype. And with this, I was like, wait, so she's going to step into this narrative and then, like, actually also make it incredibly moving and impactful. And I began losing sleep about this project because months went by and she didn't offer it to me. There was no conversation about me playing Letty initially for months. And it really messed with my ego. Because I was like, wait, does she not know that there's like nobody else who could play Letty Lewis but me? Like, what's happening right here? And I was like, she just did 2 seasons with me. I mean, like, she knows my instrument. What? And I was in J.J. Abrams' office, not about this, about something else. And he was like, did you read the Lovecraft Country script? And I said, yeah, man, you know, it was incredible. Like, gosh, I miss Misha's writing, and we're geeking about the script. And he just goes, you should do it. And I said, yeah, I think I should do it too, but like, what's up? You know, Misha, she hasn't offered it to me, like she hasn't talked to me about it. And he just goes, you should do it. And I'm like, dude, I know, can you like talk to her? I mean, help a sister out, something. And a few weeks later, she just calls me and she tells me, so we just hired a director, I want you to meet with him. And I'm like, about what? She's like, oh, about Lovecraft. Bye. She hangs up the phone. And that's how I got cast.
What is it about the show that it resonated with people? What do you think it is? Because, you know, when I talk to people about it, like I was telling my wife, she was just like, she binged the whole thing because she wasn't watching it at first. I was like, dude, you got to watch the show. It's just great. What is it about that show that resonated with people?
I think we can see ourselves in the characters. I think we know these characters. They're our friends, they're our sisters, they're our brothers, they're our mothers. You know, Misha has this gift for writing and illuminating a side of humanity, Black humanity, and normalizing our stories in a way that it feels like, wait, was she just in my kitchen or in my living room? And she takes these everyday stories that we experience as a community and places it in this world of fantasy, and it feels so unique and so fresh, but yet so familiar at the same time. And I mean, it's essentially superheroes. You know, she wrote our historical narrative in a way where we are like fighting dragons. We're fighting the monsters. It's told in a very classical design. Essentially, the heroes go on a quest to restore balance in their world, right? Like, that's a very classical design of a narrative. If you read a book, there's a great book for anyone who wants to write or just study film. There's a great book called Into the Woods, and it talks about the 3-act structure. And it talks about oftentimes whether it is Jaws or Lord of the Rings, like it's just a classical design in which the hero has to venture into an unknown territory to restore balance into their land. But if you put Black people in that very classical design, it asks the question, well, what order are we restoring? What order is to be restored in America? Because for us, there is no order, okay? And so she takes the classical design, but by placing us in it, it just flips it on its head. And I think that's her genius, you know? I think she's able to write female characters in a way that I've never, ever read. ever. I mean, the way she wrote, not just Letty, but Hippolyta. I mean, I Am, that episode 7. And Ingenue Ellis, you know, I mean, the struggle of the Black female body, right? To be seen, to be appreciated, to be heard and understood. I mean, the way she wrote Ruby. Now, that storyline, that was crazy because you're dealing with colorism and you're dealing with like all these really taboo topics, these topics that we have inherited, right? That we don't like talking about. And Misha found a way to just make us be so uncomfortable, but so like leaned in, right? And feel so seen in a way. I love that story. I love my character, Letty. It's honestly one of the projects I'm most proudest of, truly. And I feel a lot about Lovecraft. It has given so much to me. It's taken away a lot. It cost a lot. There was a lot of sacrifice that we had to give in order to get the product that y'all saw. There's things I'll probably never be able to talk about. But I do feel that as an artist, you have to bring something to the altar. You got to give your mind, your body, and your spirit. That's the integrity of an artist. You know, James Baldwin talks about that it's a force. If y'all have never listened to the speech of James Baldwin talking about the integrity of an artist, please do yourself a favor after this and Google it. But he talks about this force that we have inherited as artists, that it's not just a force, but it's also a responsibility. And if you are so blessed, if you are so lucky to have been born with this gift, it is not just your duty, but it's also your responsibility, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm not doing it justice, but it's also your responsibility because artists throughout, since the beginning of time, have been the only souls who have been able to truly show other human beings what it's like to be human and what it's like to come to this planet and survive it. And, you know, I feel incredibly blessed to be a part of a project like Lovecraft because it's doing exactly that.
That's good. So I hope y'all are making notes because I am too. Y'all taking notes? It's like, I mean, she's like giving good homework. I mean, this is great. So you've given a couple points. Any other points, main points you would share with aspiring actors? I think you've given some good ones already, but any other things that come to mind that you would share to them, with them?
I would say not much, I wouldn't give any advice that I wouldn't give to anyone in any sector, in any industry, in any profession. And that, it wouldn't be any different other than you got to bust your ass. You got to work hard. You got to be willing to stay up the extra hour and get up the extra, hour and lose that sleep and stay in the library and stay on Google, on YouTube, and reading the books in order to be the best at what you do. I don't care what you do, but just be the best at it. And the only way to be the best is to do the work. There's no shortcut. Don't cheat. Just don't do it because you're cheating no one but yourself. But you actually are just cheating yourself, you're also cheating us. You're cheating the world of your gifts. Like, I truly believe that the divine exists inside all of us and that he, she, whatever you want to call it, is waiting for us to just get out of our own way. Truly, get out your way. And let the divine use you. And I do believe we're all born with a certain calling on our life. And so for me, there's one of my favorite quotes is by George Bernard Shaw from Man vs. Superman, when he talks about the true joy in life is being used for a purpose, recognized by oneself as a mighty one, to be a force of nature instead of a selfish, feverish cod of ailments, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy. I want to be tired on that scrap heap. I want to be, when I show up to the gates of heaven, I want to be able to say to God, yeah, I got nothing left. I used it all down there, And so use it all, give it all. And honestly, I'm such a believer in integrity, in hard work, accountability, authenticity, and honesty. You use that as your guiding principles, you're going to be good.
That's some good stuff right there. Y'all got to clap for that. That was great. That was great. I'm going to ask a couple of others, and I'm going to turn over the mic and let y'all get some questions in, so don't be shy, okay? But is there anybody thinking about that, say, I would like to work with this person, it'd be a different kind of experience, or?
Oh, there's so many. Most of them are directors that I'm a fan of. I love Paul Thomas Anderson. I think movies like There Will Be Blood, and, I tend to like, my taste in films is like all over the place. But like Punch Drunk Love, and, I love, Quentin Tarantino is an incredible director to me. I would love to work with, people that just kind of make me grow and make me like push myself. Like that's really the mind state I'm in. I'm gonna continue working with my girl Misha, because we joined at the hips creatively. But yeah, I want to work with filmmakers that make me afraid, that scare me, that make me have to step outside of my comfort zone. Because I just want to continuously get better. I think I've only scratched the surface, honestly, of what my instrument can do.
Before I get this last question, just one aside real quick. How brilliant was Michael K. Williams?
Yeah.
I know it's just, he was awesome. He was awesome on that show. And I know it just touched a lot of people, and you go back and you watch The Wire and you look at it, because then I binged The Wire after that, and I was like, this guy is absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, he's such a beautiful man. He was like my brother. We became so incredibly close and bonded. He and the entire cast, we all became incredibly close. And devastating loss. My heart is so broken. It's so hard to talk about, but I loved him tremendously. And what he gave on screen, again, it's the sacrifice. It's bringing to the altar, and he left nothing unearthed, and I learned so much about the craft just sitting opposite him and looking in his eyes. There was not a false note. He just wasn't capable of it. It's just something that his instrument just wouldn't allow. Every single take after take after take, he would deliver the most raw honesty. And I spoke about this briefly, one of the very first scenes that I ever did with him was Uncle George's death. And it was this crazy, sometimes these scenes, the directors are not paying attention to what the actors need. Sometimes there's so much chaos happening, and we were losing light, and we were racing the clock, and there was this long, steady cam shot that starts, and I run up to Atticus, and the camera goes around us, and then we do this long walk, and it's one continuous take following us back to the car. And it was that adrenaline, if you don't get this right, they're gonna still use it, because we're losing the light. We don't have all day to get this shot. So as an actor, you better every single take, you can't waste it. And I just looked at Michael in the back of the Woody holding Uncle George, and there was such pain in his eyes. And it was literally all I needed to drop in, just to look at him. And that's it. It's an incredibly humbling experience to work with artists like that. It's not something that you encounter every single day, but it just makes your job incredibly easy because all you got to do is just look in his eyes. There's literally nothing else you have to do. And when I tell you that man, I love him so much. You know, we would do meditation challenges during COVID, and he was going to take me to he was going to take me to, where we were going to go? Barbados. He was going to take me to Barbados for my birthday this month. He was going to take me and my whole family. And, you know, I can't speak enough about how much I loved him. And, yeah, my heart, one day, I think I'll heal from that.
Yeah. Thank you. Last one I'll ask, and then let students ask a couple questions. You've been a really big supporter of HIV and AIDS-related causes, as well as social justice and women's equity. And then we talked a little bit how you were doing some surrogate work with President Obama. So talk a little bit about your philanthropic and community service, because I think they need to hear the broader you as well. I think they can pick up a lot of that based on your answers, but just some of the other passions that you have outside of your work.
I actually, again, my mother, my mother moved from New Orleans to Oakland when she was 19 years old in the 70s and worked with Angela Davis and the Young Workers League. And, that's when she met my dad. And so I grew up in the home of activists. And so I think that's just the way I see the world, is from that point of view of serving. And, my mother had me reading Harriet Tubman's biography when I was 8 and volunteering, as I mentioned. That was the mandate for my entire family. It's just what we do. I don't talk about it a lot because I just think that the work speaks for itself, right? And so, I've been quite involved with a number of organizations, whether it was Artists for New South Africa and traveling to South Africa. I had the privilege of meeting the late President Mandela, and I worked with artists who were activists in that organization. And then, yes, since have worked with, I was a founding member of Time's Up, and I work closely with Patrice and the Black Lives Matter movement. And for me, again, it's the fabric. It's in my DNA. This is naturally I feel a bit like an organizer at heart. If I wasn't an artist, I probably would just be running a nonprofit somewhere. Again, because I was raised with the belief that it is our job to serve. But that's just my mama and me.
Okay, y'all ready? Kayla, come get this microphone. So if you have a question, you can come, and Kayla's going to hold on to the microphone with her life. And you got 30 seconds that you can ask your question, and then if you start going longer, she's going to pull it. So we'll take a few. Who wants to? I'm going to take 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll take these 5. Y'all, come on. You 5. Yeah, both of y'all. Then if I get time, we'll come back to DJ, okay? So let me get these 5 first. You can just stand to the side. Okay. All right.
Oh, okay. Hey. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Okay. Okay. When preparing for a role or even living day to day, I know that it can be mentally draining. How do you take care of yourself mentally?
That's a very good question. It's something that I am, every role has different demands. With season 2 of Underground, I was pregnant. And so I felt this obligation to this child that was growing inside of me to not go as deep and stay in it as long as I typically do. So honestly, I created like different rituals at the end of the day to get out of it. Y'all, no lie, to get out of character, I would dance to Rihanna. But each character requires different different ways, different processes. So like when I finished with Letty, I did a full purge. I cut my hair. I went away for a little bit. I have to say, I have to do better at the self-care aspect of my artistry. It's something I'm aware of. I'm working on it. Not entirely there yet. But these characters stay with me, and the demands of it, sometimes I can injure myself. Like with Lovecraft, I was in the hospital 3 different times because I just throw my whole being into it. So ask me in a few years. I journal a lot. I journal. It's my saving grace, prayer, meditation. Those are some of the like baseline things I have to do. But she's working on that aspect of herself. But oftentimes it's music that I use to either get into character or get out.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm a filmmaker, and so this is like great that Mr. Kimber brought you here today. And I know that the film industry is changing all the time, and so it's a place where you're not sure that the work that you put out, how it'll be received. For example, I know that Lovecraft Country, even though it was super successful, it didn't get renewed for a season 2. And so my question was, how do you bounce back from putting your all into something like that and then not being able to see it all the way through?
Very good question. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Lovecraft, as I said, it's something I'm so incredibly proud of, and as it has been such a blessing in my life, it's also been a source of real pain, and so there's a lot of heartbreak surrounding that. But I think as an artist, I've learned to not have real expectations for how work is perceived or have any real attachment to what my work does in the world. That's really not my job to worry about. I do my job, I give it up my all, and then I walk away. And sometimes it's easier to walk away, and sometimes it's more difficult. With Lovecraft, it's been more difficult to walk away. But at the end of the day, I know as an artist, there's a bigger purpose, and I do believe that the higher power uses my art for a reason that I may not even comprehend in this lifetime. And while I may not be able to continue with a character, the work still goes on and does the work. And so, yeah, I think learning to not have attachment to the results. Denzel told me something. He said, Jurnee, man gives awards, God gives rewards. And while I was so grateful this year, it was the first time, being nominated for an Emmy and these different awards and stuff like that. It felt so incredible to have the work recognized and seen and acknowledged. But I think about these words all the time. The reward is everlasting and is beyond this moment.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for visiting Dillard. Thank you, Hip Hop Prez, for bringing Jurnee. I am old enough to remember being cognizant of watching Eve's Bayou and like processing it as a young girl. I've been blessed to see you grow in this industry, and I'm very proud of you. So
Thank
start
you.
there. But I am an aspiring actress as well, amongst other things. And I know sometimes we can get a sense of imposter syndrome with this because people put you on a pedestal so much and forget that you're a human being. They expect you to have all the answers to everything just because you're really good at what you do on screen. And I kind of wanted to know in that, what have been some moments in your life where you have dealt with imposter syndrome, particularly shaped from the perspective of a young black woman, and how have you incorporated that moving forward, or how have you been dealing with that moving forward?
Thank you for that question. That's a great question. Yes, oh my goodness. I saw recently, I don't know if you saw the interview that Viola Davis did with Oprah when she was talking about this. And I felt so good. I was like, oh Lord, if Viola Davis struggles with this, I'm okay. I think to a certain degree, we all struggle with that inner censor. And, again, not just artists, but all of us. Media and society just does not do a great job at lifting up the Black female body, right? And we can't really wait for them to do it, because most likely it ain't gonna happen in our lifetime. We're getting there, but it just, unfortunately, it's still the images that we are constantly, whether it's social media or movies or magazines or in classrooms, we're constantly being bombarded with this feeling that we are not enough. And I do a lot of work to reflect on that, to stay aware of when I'm feeling it. I don't know if you've ever read this book, The Artist's Way. It's a wonderful book. I highly recommend it for any artist, but not just artists. I mean, it's really, it's about being unblocked in your life. And so it's beneficial for artists, but writers, whatever. And she talks in the book about the inner censor, the inner critic, this voice inside our head. And she recommends that every morning you write 3 pages. You do morning pages. And it's a ritual I've done for years. I do not miss a morning. And honestly, there was a project that I did a few years ago, and I really struggled with the director. He didn't even want to cast me. And the producers and the studio had kind of gone around him and cast me. And he was awful to me, misogynistic asshole. And every single day I would go to work, and prior to work I would do 3 pages of my morning pages and read my Jesus Calling. And I would do Jesus Calling is where it's at. That's the one. That's the one. And I would just try to remind myself that this man is not my God. He is not my God. He will not decide my destiny. It does not matter whether he approves of me or thinks I'm a great actor. It doesn't matter. That man would literally talk to all the other male actors on set and give them direction and not even look at me when he was giving direction. I mean, he cussed me out in front of 250 extras. It was a nightmare. And I tell you, it was a moment in which I struggled so much with feeling like, am I worthy of being here? I mean, I knew I was, but I didn't know I was, Like the fact I even had to work against that drained me of energy that I should have been focusing on my character. But honestly, I will say that The Artist's Way and just like the lessons in that book about quieting the censor and understanding when you are criticizing yourself. Is that you who really thinks that about you? Is it your mama who made you think something about your height, your this, your feet, whatever it is? Is it an ex-boyfriend? Like really analyzing and being aware at least helps me battle it. So those are some of the tools. But yeah, I think we all struggle to a degree with it. Look, if Viola does, the struggle's gonna be there. It's just about being equipped with the tools to battle it.
Hello, my name
Hello.
is Jordan, by the way. No one did answer, but so my question was, as a Black woman in a business, whether it be acting or whatever, what message do you have for us that are trying to break the barrier of not only being a woman trying to make it in this world, but being a Black woman after everything that's happened over quarantine, with there being so much with the Black Lives Matter movement, but just purely the things that we go through every day with no one acknowledging the fact that we go through things too, and that it's hard to be that strong person all the time. Like, how do you deal with that, and what is some encouraging words that you have for those people who are going through that, especially us as college students?
I would say yes, in addition to everything we've been discussing about like the real internal work that you have to be equipped with to just be Black and female in the society. I find that rituals help me, you gotta find that thing that lifts you up, that makes you feel good, that makes you feel valued, and then build your tribe. It may not be a large tribe, but build your tribe. Seek out mentors. Seek out other women who have gone through similar things like yourself. Research and read historical narratives. I find so much inspiration from Gwendolyn Brooks, from women of the past. You read and you think, wait, how did Lorraine Hansberry have the guts to write Raisin in the Sun in the 1950s? Like, she used her voice. She was the first Black female playwright to be on Broadway? What? If she could do that, I have no excuse. Like, these are the things, I think so if we educate ourselves about our history and the queens and kings we come from, like, we stand on their shoulders. And that's not a cliche. We are literally the product and the result of survivors, of tribal kings and queens who fought back. So if they could do it in that time, we have no excuse. It's not going to be easy. But another thing Denzel said, y'all, I love Denzel Washington in case you haven't noticed. But he said to me, he was like, ease is the enemy of progress. Don't look for the easy route because you're not going to grow. You're going to stay safe. So bring it. Look the enemy in the eye and say, bring it. What you got? Because I'm ready. That's literally, y'all don't understand. It's like, the industry doesn't like get easier as you stay in it. They're just newer obstacles that they've created for you, right? Like, it doesn't get, this is what I said to someone recently. They were like, oh, how did it feel nominated? Like, you and Jonathan were the first time a Black male actor and a Black female actress from a drama series were both nominated in a lead category for an Emmy. They're like, how does that feel? And I was like, why are we still making first? It's 2021. Like, it's amazing. I'm humbled. I'm honored. But, there's just more obstacles for us to. It's like a video game. You just deal with different levels. And so I go, bring it. Bring it. We can do it. I believe in you. You got the fight in you. And just find your tribe to support you.
Hey.
Hey.
So I really just I first came down here to ask you, like, what you take away from your characters that you play. But I really want to ask you what book recommendations that you have, because you're recalling a lot of information, and I'm really interested.
Oh, thank you. Book recommendations, there's so many. I'm a big reader. I've been reading a lot of bell hooks lately. She's definitely challenging me a lot about love, and self-love and things that I've accepted in the past that I thought was love, that ain't love. So anything by bell hooks, I highly recommend. I'm a big fan of James Baldwin. That man, oh my goodness, so ahead of his time. I recently read a book called The Sacred Yes. Has anyone read this book? Yeah, it's good. It's really good. My friend sent it to me, and I read it. I read a book recently that moved me by Glennon Doyle. Called what is Glennon Doyle's book? Unbound? No, we're gonna have to Google this, y'all. Now I gotta pull out Google. Hold on one second. Untamed. Yeah, it's really good. That's really good. Journal for Jordan, which is the movie that Denzel directed. It comes out soon. I'm not in it. It's a really good book. But in terms of books that I just kind of keep near my bedside, yeah, The Artist's Way is one that I've read that book so many times, and it's a gift that just keeps on giving. I love the poetry of Mary Oliver. Do y'all love her? Does anyone know Mary Oliver? Yeah? You know, there's something about Mary Oliver's poetry that really gets me through life because the metaphor in the way she writes about nature, the universe, God, love. There's a collection of her poetry called Devotions. I highly recommend.
Come on, DJ, let you get this last question in.
But make sure y'all watch The Integrity of the Artist. You can listen to it, Integrity of the Artist, like on YouTube by James Baldwin.
Hello,
Hello.
my name is David Rose Jr., and I'm going to be in the end credits with you one day, so I just thought I'd let you know.
Amen. Come on now.
My question is, what is your process to bring life to the words on the paper, like for a script? And how does it feel when you finally get it right, when you finally feel that, like, that line is right in a certain spot that may be difficult for you?
You know, I don't believe in right when it comes to acting. I only believe in truth, what is true and what is false. When you think about it in terms of right or wrong, there's an inherent judgment to it. And judgment in art is the enemy, you know. And so, yes, my process goes back to, as we were talking about earlier, research. Who is she? What does she want? And how is she going to get it? Those are essentially the three questions as an actor I have to answer. That's my job. But those questions lead to a whole list of other things, which is why the research is so important, which is why you just cannot phone it in, y'all. Like, you got to read everything that she would have read. You got to know everything about her world or his world. You know, I think that separates the difference. Yeah, I have coaches that I work with now. I didn't used to when I was a kid, but now I do. I have several coaches and different techniques that I use. But for the most part, it's about just being able to answer any question about your character. Like, if I were to come up to you and say, okay, so tell me about your mother. You'd be able to tell me everything about your life, your history, your mother's history, your anything that, and if you can't say it, that's actually vital information as well. Like, I don't know who my grandfather, my maternal grandfather is, but that has informed my life, right? That informed my mother's life. She didn't know who her father was. So that informed how I see men, right? Like, those are all key aspects to who we are as human beings. That's why it's important for me as an actor to know the whole backstory of my character, if that answers your question. Okay.
All right, see, this is one of those kinds of conversations I sort of hate that I was up here having the conversation, because I would have been writing the whole time. There were just lots of good things. So I hope y'all share notes with each other, because lots of things, I like the book recommendations, all this is really good. So first of all, first thing we're gonna do is let's give a great big round of applause for Jurnee Smollett.